Hi, I'm Jan Shegdev, Clarity Coaching, and today we're talking about sexual variant. So last time we talked about social variant, and as you know, with the Enneagram, you have one of the three variants dominant: social, sexual, or self-preservation. And sexual is all about intensity and depth. So they want to go deep, go big, or go home, pretty much. And let's talk about what that means in terms of career and personal relationships and some typical types that tend towards sexual and ones that you would maybe not expect to see. So in terms of career, actually let me start by just describing what sexual is. So when walking into a room, a sexual variant notices, where's the juice? Where's my intensity going to come from? And that could be a deep conversation with someone. It could be food or some other kind of substance or a drug. It could be entertainment, music, a book, a game, a sexual experience with someone. But whatever it is, they almost want their life to be ripped away for a moment and feel alive. So that's what a sexual variant is kind of living for. And really they're attracted to things that are deep, that are intense, sometimes maybe a little bit offbeat, or what's the word I'm looking for? Even kind of like gross out things, or things that just kind of push the envelope. Those are things that sexual variants can also be interested in at times. So in terms of career, the reason why it matters what variant you are is whatever that need is generally, you're also going to want to have that met in your career. So if you're always after depth and intensity as a person, then when it comes to your career, it's important that that goes along with that. So for example, sexual type careers usually are one-to-one careers. So that means, a lot of time between you and one other person. An exception might be if you're a speaker or a politician or kind of more of a leader where your primary sexual experience work-wise is like delivering a message. That can be a sexual experience as well, in the sense that you're trying to get somebody to understand something in a different way and have this really deep experience with this material that only you as the sexual variant can provide that depth of experience for. So there's that. Also, other jobs for sexual variants, they're interested in things typically like being a therapist or a counselor. They could be interested in more like extreme sports. What else? Many teachers are sexual variants, and they want to, they're the ones that have like really intense contact and mentorship with their students. That's a little bit more important than kind of like providing the classroom experience or things that you might see more with the social or self-preservation. Self-preservation teachers it would be all about the material and providing the most accurate and useful material, and doing so in a logical and consistent way. So, but really the most important thing for careers for sexual variants is that they're finding a place to get that juice at work. So if they're doing some kind of like a data entry job, which, believe it or not, there are people that really do love that work, but a sexual variant would not be one of them. That would not provide enough excitement and change. They like variety. They like to constantly expand and grow, in a sense, or at least be challenged. That's very important. And have a new experience, new adventure, new exploration. So as you might imagine, that can sometimes provide a little bit of a challenge for sexual variants in relationships, because if you always want adventure and exploration and something new, then what happens if you're married or you've been with somebody for a while and then you start to get a little bit tired of them? Because of that, sexual variants are a little bit more prone to grass is greener syndrome. They can be just, they really love kind of the falling in love stage, because that's really what a sexual variant is all about, feeling, and really the name of sexual variant tells it all, right? I mean, whether it's a sexual experience or not, sexual variant is about feeling something in the deepest parts of you. So you can have that experience with a book if you get really into the characters, but you want all of you to be in that. So in the later stages of relationships, sometimes sexual variants can struggle and feel unfulfilled, and because of that, they have to really focus on, okay, how can I still have my sexual variant needs met in a long-term relationship without resorting to something like stepping out on my partner or And that can happen in job situations as well, where sexual variants get tired of doing the same thing and need to find ways to continually recreate that and have a different role within that so that they can stay engaged. What else about relationships? I should mention that just in terms of the different variants and how people pair up, because I've gotten this question a lot. So strictly speaking, in terms of theory, the best possibility would be in terms of dating or long-term partnering. You would want to be with somebody that doesn't have your same dominant, and statistically, usually you pick somebody that's not your same variant, but you want to have the same least dominant. So for example, if you are with your proportion of your variants, if you're sexual and then social and then self-preservation, you would probably want to pair up with somebody that's social first, then sexual like you, and also self-preservation last. So that's kind of how the theory goes in terms of ideal mating. Of course, that's idealization, so any couple can work at any time. Types that tend to be sexual and those that maybe aren't as likely. So the ones that are most likely, 4s, depth and intensity, is kind of what a 4 is mostly about. 7s and 8s as well. They're both quite intense types, and I mentioned the 7s earlier as being prone to social, really social and sexual. They're so strong with both of those. But 8 especially, a lot of sexual variants are 8s. Ones that you would think would maybe not be as likely would be a style 1. For example, not as likely to be a sexual variant primary, and 6s would be the other ones that are not as likely. But of course, it can always happen at any time. Other things to mention about sexual variants. So we talked earlier about the temperature. So social variants having more of a cool temperature, sexual variants having kind of that hot, intense temperature. They're the ones that are happy to go really deep, really fast. They may ask kind of probing questions of you if they're a more emotional sexual variant. But there are other ways to be sexual variant and intense other than just being emotional. So you could be intense physically or athletically, mentally. But whatever it is, it's just kind of that vibration that's one notch above where the rest of the world tends to spend their time. Other names for the sexual variant, a lot of people really don't like the name of sexual variant, so there's other possibilities like the relating variant, the intensifying, the one-to-one variant, and the intimate variant are all different names for the sexual variant. And like we described in the social variant video, problems that you see when a sexual variant isn't doing well. Basically, you'll see a string of relationship crash and burns. So either the person that they're dating or married to, or their 5 closest friendships or family members, you'll see really intense kind of meltdowns with those relationships that the sexual variant then has to work through. So that's something to look for when a sexual variant isn't doing well. I'd love to answer any other questions that you have about variants or sexual variants or any of the others. And next week we'll talk about self-preservation. Thanks for joining us.